Hey, you're listening to Innovators Can Laugh, the fun startup podcast. I'm your host, Eric Melcher. On ICL, we interview an innovative entrepreneur in the European tech startup scene every week. My goal is to have my guests share their wisdom while having a little fun in the process. Now let's dive in. Zornitsa gotivi ulšte dar govorim za lični financi.
Wow. Yes. Hi, Eric.
Okay. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. My guest today is Bulgarian entrepreneur Zornitsa Nikolova. Zornitsa is an agile coach who loves building software products. Her latest product is Viziwealth, a collaborative wealth management platform for the entire family. With the application, you can have an organized and holistic view of your personal finances and be able to plan for important events in your life. Zornitsa, welcome to Innovators Can Laugh.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I really enjoyed the podcast and your fresh perspective on entrepreneurship.
Oh, hey, pleasure having you here. So this past weekend, my wife and I were driving back to Bucharest from the mountains, and I asked her if I were to pass away, would she know where and how to access all of our financial accounts? Now, of course, she asked, why did you say that? Why are you thinking that? But me being a responsible parent and spouse, I want to make sure that she and we have a plan in place in case something happened to either of us. We have a few different bank accounts. We have retirement accounts. We have some stocks, a little bit of crypto, and some ETFs for our kids set aside. And they're kind of all over the place. They're just really scattered. And I want to make sure that she can be able to access them and just knows where everything is. So was this, what I'm going through now with my wife, what we're trying to get organized here, was this a problem that you encountered personally, Zornitsa?
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Eric. Actually, when you were explaining the situation, I went back 3 years ago when my third kid actually was born. And it was in the beginning of the pandemic, more or less. And then, the situation, it was not a very bright situation to be in, a mess in the world and something scary happening. And, we already had three kids to look after. Mm-hmm. And this is exactly the conversation we started leading with my husband then. And I started asking him, because he's the one mostly in charge with, let's say, family finance, investment, all that stuff. And I started asking him, okay, do you know what we have, in the worst case scenario? How do we know? And he was, at one point, he grew really suspicious. And he was looking at me and saying, wow, why are you asking me that?
Yeah.
So it took me a while to convince him to get everything into one place and share, And I think he was quite relieved when I actually eventually told him, okay, look, I have this startup idea. What do you think? So he was like, wow, I thought something else, But yeah, basically we started from there too. And it's not a problem that people like to think about, it's nobody likes to think about the worst case scenario. And even if we're not talking about the worst case scenario, even if we're talking about today and our daily needs, people are usually lazy about managing their personal finance. They don't want to do budgeting. They don't want to do all these boring stuff and get things together until, it's urgent. And then they look for a quick solution. And with personal finance, it doesn't really always work like that. I mean, you have to do some planning. You have to take care that you have your goals in place and you have a vision for your future. And this is the kind of a thinking that we've put in Viziwealth, and we know that people are struggling with that. They are struggling to start to dive into this topic of personal finance management and finance planning. It looks scary sometimes and too much effort. So our mission with Viziwealth is to make it, a no-brainer kind of for people.
Yeah, I
So,
think the average family doesn't really talk about finances. As a child growing up, finances, especially personal finances, were never really, brought to the table, to the dinner table. And it wasn't something until later on in life where I was getting close to my 30s that I began reading books about personal finance. And prior to that, though, it was kind of like, closed mouth. No one said anything about it. If you had, okay, go get a savings account and a checking account, but that was kind of it. And so I think first you need to just be opening that discussion, and so that people can at least first start, talking about finances, and it's not so secretive, And so that's something I'm planning on doing with my kids as they get older. I take them to the grocery store, and I'm like, "You see this? This costs 5 lei or this costs 10 lei," letting him know that there's a cost associated with these things that we're buying, but
right.
getting him, more exposed to budgeting and just money, everyday money, and why we work and why we save and things like that. So let's go back to we're going to come back to Viziwealth, but let's go to your childhood. And can you tell us where you were from and what your childhood was like, and how did that play a part in how you see the world today?
Okay. Um, so I grew up actually in a small town in Bulgaria. It's called Vratsa.
Okay.
It's a beautiful town. So if you have a chance to visit Bulgaria, I recommend it.
Okay.
And I grew up in interesting times. It was at the end of the communist times, more or
Uh-huh.
less. I was 10 when communism kind of ended. And I lived through parts of it, the last year of communism, some crisis in communist regime. And then ever since then, we are transforming the country more or less and the economy. So we have been living a lot in a transition period since then.
What were some of
So
the, if you don't mind me interrupting, what were some of the worst things
sure,
that you experienced during communist times when you were a young girl?
yeah. Um, I think when you were talking about having the culture and the discipline to share and to do budgeting with your kids, I remembered when I was a little kid, maybe it was probably just after the end of communism, not really still during communist times, but just after the end of it, when there was a huge crisis, you couldn't buy anything in the shop. So it was really, really bad. And then we had inflation and all that stuff. And actually, from the perspective where I am now and talking about personal finance, I think I was a little bit lucky at that point that actually my family was really pushed to be, first of all, transparent about the incomes. So everything, when they got their salaries, everything was collected together in a drawer at home,
Uh-huh.
counted. And then we had a very strict budget prepared, food and maybe sometimes clothes, maybe not. You wear something from your mother or father or whatever you have. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so um, so this created in me a certain expectation that this is how things should be in a family, transparent,
Okay.
this level of transparency, and also the idea of budgeting together and really thinking ahead. And so these are some basic financial habits, and I think my parents weren't really aware that they're building such in my sister and myself.
Hmm.
They were pushed from the circumstances to do it, but eventually I think it was good.
When they
So,
were putting the money in the drawer and they were saying
yeah,
we have this strict budget, were they just showing you this and telling you this is what we have?
yeah.
And Was it more educational for them, or you said that they were unaware of what they were doing?
No, it was just real life, you know. They just had to do it. And we lived together with my grandparents, so six people in a two-bedroom apartment, you can
Hmm.
imagine. So
Hmm.
everything was shared, everything was transparent. You couldn't really hide and
Yeah.
count the
Yeah.
money under the table. So
And a two bedroom, at least here in Romania, a two-bedroom is really a one-bedroom and a living room. Is that the case over there in
no,
Bulgaria?
it's really no. It's really two bedroom and a living room. So we
Okay.
had three rooms for six people.
Okay. Yeah. Here, and when they say it's a two-bedroom, it's really like one bedroom here. But
Yeah,
okay. Okay. So it's
yeah,
a little bit bigger than I imagine.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Big enough. But yeah, this was one thing that that kind of shaped some habits. And when you asked me about my childhood, I remembered another thing that is kind of related to where I am now. It was um, again end of communism, the last years, and I remember one morning waking up and finding my father at home. And usually he would leave very very early because he started his work at like 7:15 in the morning. So I would rarely find him at home when I woke up.
Okay.
And he is at home, and I'm asking him, what are you doing? Are you sick or something? And he's like, no, I'm my own boss already. And I'm like, wow. And you can imagine, it's a situation where you have these communist type of factories where the boss is really somebody big from the Communist Party. You cannot have anyone um, to be the boss. And
Okay.
my father and my mother, they were just regular engineers, hardworking regular engineers.
Hmm.
We didn't have any bosses in the family, you know. So the
Okay.
boss was a big thing. And my father is telling me that, and I'm, wow, that's like a big thing. Later, I found out that actually what happened was that he had a fight with his boss at work. And my father is a very stubborn guy, you know, a little bit of a rebel, which is good in some situations, in others not so good. When you have a teenage daughter, it's not so good. But in this case, he he really had a fight with his boss, and he just quit job and just left, you know. And you
Yeah.
can imagine what it means in the communist regime where you didn't have a labor market or anything. I mean, the job is found for you, if I may
Right.
say that.
Right.
And if you quit, you cannot easily find another job, especially if you are not a Communist Party member, which my father was not.
Okay.
But I discovered this later. But at that point, he was like my hero, uh, and um, and actually, what he did afterwards, he really started his own business. So it was at the time when already some private initiative was allowed. So he started something on his own.
Okay.
So I think this is an episode that it sounds like something really stupid to do if you're in this situation, but in the
Uh-huh.
end, I think in me it shaped some value for for personal freedom, for creating yourself options when you don't see others, for fighting to survive and do what you really want to do and not be pressed by the circumstances somehow.
Yeah.
So I think this was why currently I'm actually trying to build something and to work as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, as you're telling me this, what I at least how I perceive this is that as a young girl, as a child, you see your parent who is no longer working, but instead of being depressed or being down or showing any sort of like body language that they feel down, instead he tells you, "I'm the boss now." And it's like
Right.
that one little line there and how he says it. And again, I wasn't there, but I'm imagining how he said it and how he perceived it really shaped your perception of him, and then also helped you become the person that you eventually are turning into. You are right now and turning into. I mean, what a wonderful thing that your father did in that moment in his life was to be strong. Even though when he had no idea what was going to happen, what was the uncertainty that he was going through right now, but that belief in himself that he was going to that things were going to turn out right, and just showcase that to you. That's very admirable, very very admirable.
Right.
Okay, so question regarding wealth management. Um, how do you think wealth management has changed from 10 years ago to what we're seeing now with the new technology that's out today and the ease of different applications and tools that are available within the palm of our hands?
Mm. Well, I think, first of all, our consumer world has changed a lot in terms of the assets we can create, investments we can make. Over
Mm-hmm.
the past 10 years, you see all the different opportunities. We have crypto, we have all the different robo advisors, platforms for investments. So it's a really, really diverse world of opportunities and tools that people can use to put their money and try to make their future better in terms of finance. So also wealth management is becoming more complex because of that, and it takes more and more time for people to. On one hand side, we have a lot of tools that are supposed to make our lives easier,
Mm-hmm.
like the robo advisor, ETFs, and all that stuff. On the other hand, having all those options makes it complex. So in the end, you have to sit and read and inform yourself and really try to make up your mind about where you want to put your money. So eventually, most people end up like having 20 accounts everywhere, putting a few bucks here and a few bucks there, and trying to play a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, this is challenging in its own in the context of what we started with, really knowing even I forget some of the assets that I have unless I
Yeah.
put them organized somewhere. Um, so, um, so yeah, there are some challenges in that direction. And actually, with Viziwealth, we are really trying to address some of those.
So when you talk about these different challenges that people are facing, because just like myself, I've got assets all over the place. When users start using the platform, using the application, what do they get excited about, right? When they start using it?
Well, for me, when I personally first tested as a user, it was so cool to just put in all our family assets and immediately see, the net worth, where we are, what's taking what part of it. So it's like you have it, but you haven't really visualized it. So it's not clear. It's somewhere in the background, this knowledge that okay, you're not starving, you will survive. But when you see it, it creates a sense of security and stability, and you can actually start thinking, oh wow, I do have some stuff. I'm not
Hmm.
a beggar. And yeah, maybe I can actually start planning something bigger. Maybe I can change this apartment, which is already too small for my three kids, or plan anything else. And this changes your thinking a little bit from trying to live day to day and trying to cover your expenses and really do this budgeting thing where we usually start when we talk about
Hmm.
personal finance, from really thinking into, I would say, scarcity from this perspective, into thinking from an abundance perspective. Okay, I do have some resources. How could I invest them in the most meaningful way to actually live the life I dream about? And
Okay.
yeah, this is kind of the um, highlight that we are trying to inspire in people.
Yeah. Now, I think it would be very cool to just be able to open up an application and just see everything combined.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, just log in and plug all your different accounts there, and you can see like an overall picture of your assets and a picture of your wealth, and know what's the value of each one. And I'm not sure if you can see that over time, going back like a custom date range and seeing the fluctuations, but I imagine you can. The app also says that you could plan for important events in your life. Is there a functionality where you can say, I'm trying to save up to buy, a down payment for a new house or something like that inside the app? Can you tell us more?
Right, right. There is functionality that helps you formulate your goals, and this could be like really big goal, like a new house, or maybe you're saving for the education of your kids, or for pension, or for whatever bigger dream you have. Or this could even be something much smaller, like I want to go on a nice vacation, surprise vacation for family, and I want
Yeah.
to save some money for that. And the good thing is that as I told you, we've been thinking from the very beginning. We've been thinking from the perspective of families. So Viziwealth can be used by individuals, but it can also very well be used by families. So you can share some stuff, some goals or some assets with your partner, for example. But you
Yeah.
can leave like the secret vacation saving that you're doing for yourself and really surprise your partner with that. So yeah, you can do that, and we are trying to offer a set of self-service tools to our
Hmm.
users so that they can be really independent. They can just log in and start planning themselves without really needing an advisor to tell them what to do. On the other hand side, we know that sometimes it does take human touch, to be brave enough even to plan for your dreams.
Yeah.
So we also want to support our users in that way, offering them the possibility, if they need to consult a professional financial advisor. And we already partner with some independent consultant, which is also something very important for us to have really people who will coach our users from the perspective of their needs and not from the perspective of, okay, I want you to buy some insurances or whatever. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Who was the first investor for Visi Wealth, if there was one? And if there was an investor, what was that experience like?
It's FFF, friends, foods, and family. so, so we are
Okay.
still at this stage. We are bootstrapping still.
Okay.
So our investments are from the team at this point.
Hmm.
And we have currently actually joined an accelerator
Okay.
to streamline our effort and to prepare ourselves for the next steps in this direction, to really start talking to some investors and see how we can fund our growth.
Okay. If I were to give you $10,000 to help grow your business, what would you do, Zornitsa?
Would you? Would you give me that? Well, our current focus is really reaching more people who would be interested to try the platform and start using it. Because for
Okay.
us at the moment, the most important thing is really to learn from our users, to learn from the market,
Yeah.
We know we are not perfect. We are far from perfect yet because we are in the very beginning of this journey. That's
Hmm.
why feedback from our users is so important. And we really celebrate. We have some feedback options in the app, so people can give us instant feedback when they don't like something. They just can write
Okay.
us, this is like horrible, and hopefully sometimes they say, oh, okay, I love this. And we are really celebrating every new comment that comes, and we are taking it and we are discussing and redesigning stuff. So for us, really, this is like the primary thing: reaching out more
Okay.
people, being able to get them on board, and being able to really use that valuable feedback to improve the service.
Okay. And
So that would be, yeah.
are there any channels or interesting opportunities that you're experiencing that you're executing right now that are helping you get new users or new customers for the platform?
So we are basically working in several directions. We are trying to be active on social media, of course, to get some organic new users, and we are also using our partners to or using them is probably a wrong word. We are trying to create synergies and win-win situations with our partners. So we are planning a series of workshops with different companies that we consider as target potential target users for what we do. So
Okay.
we are planning some workshops with our partners together. To from one hand side, our partners, financial advisors, they're experts in personal finance, investment, and all those topics. So we want to bring them together with us to really give some content, really some useful information and experience to participants in those workshops, and at the same time really showcase how Viziwealth could help
Okay.
in this journey. And we have a bunch of other, fun experiences like we are also selected to participate in a new reality format on Bloomberg in Bulgaria.
Okay.
So it's a startup show, a startup contest, kind of.
Okay.
So we are also taking part in that. So we have different channels, and we are kind of experimenting and seeing what works for us. So
Cool. Very, very
yeah.
cool. And so, do your kids, do they get to engage with the app, and are they able to see like all of your family's, wealth and assets through the app? Or are they using it as well?
I've shared some information with my older kids because they're
Okay.
15 and 11. They're old enough to understand.
Yep.
And it's been very interesting, especially for my older son who is 15. He's starting to ask questions, also getting interested into the topic of investing and stuff like that.
Okay.
And my little one is like 3, so maybe we have to develop something especially for him, a different
Yeah. Yeah.
approach.
Your little one has a few years, I think.
Right.
Yeah, before you can do it. Okay, we're going to get into some fun questions in just a second, but one more question is, or who is a brilliant entrepreneur or marketer in Bulgaria you'd like to give a shout out to, and what can we learn from this person, and where can we find them?
Oh, um, we have a lot of, remarkable people in the ecosystem here. So one lady, for example, that I admire really much is she's called Elina Zeleva. and she's a managing partner at I forgot the name of the company. I'm sorry. She created Design Thinking BG at some time ago, and she
Okay.
was the person bringing really design thinking into the ecosystem, teaching people how to think from a customer perspective. And later, her startup was acquired. But I think she's like a source of inspiration and really a great person to talk to.
Okay.
So maybe that's one person I can think of at the moment.
All
And there
right.
are,
Well,
for
thank.
sure, there are more.
Oh, I know. I've interviewed a few of them already. Yeah. Okay. Now for some fun questions, Zornitsa. What is a favorite movie or TV show or song that you can listen to or watch again and again, over and over?
Well, okay, that's kind of boring, but I've watched Friends like
Okay.
10 times, maybe all the seasons, and I think I can do again. It's always
Yeah.
funny.
No, my wife loves that show. She's seen them all at least a few times too. So
Right.
yeah, no, it's a very popular show. I can do the same thing with Seinfeld. Okay, what is and you have this is a fill in the blank question, Zornitsa. Along the way of launching Viziwealth, you learned a lot about blank. Along the way of launching Viziwealth, you learned a lot about blank. Fill in that blank there.
Falling and getting up. And I
Okay.
think I still have a lot to learn there.
What was your hardest fall so far as you've been growing
Actually,
the
as we
business?
speak, I come from, last night I was pitching to some mentors and they gave me a really harsh feedback and I'm still recovering from that.
From the
But
pitch itself? From the pitch?
from the pitch, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, this is the game, and I am actually happy to have the opportunities to have wake up calls, and
Yeah.
to keep my ears open and my eyes open and improve. So that's the
Yeah.
game.
No, good feedback is phenomenal. And I know it's our natural inclination to be upset because we just don't like criticism. But when it's good quality feedback and you understand where they're coming from and you look back, you're like, oh yes, I can improve upon that, or that does make sense. So yeah,
Exactly.
don't beat yourself up too hard on that. Okay. Zornitsa, thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody, I will include a link to Zornitsa's LinkedIn profile along with the Viziwealth website in the show notes. Zornitsa, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Eric. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
My pleasure too. And for everyone, if you enjoyed what you just heard, you're going to love what I'm about to tell you. If you go online to innovatorscanlaugh.substack.com and hit the subscribe button, you'll be added to an email list where I share exclusive content related to the show. This is where I'm going to share my key takeaways for all the episodes, including action steps that you can do to put this advice into action. I also share some real life breakdowns of campaigns that I'm working on. So head on over to ICL and hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening in, and tune in next week as we will be interviewing another fascinating Bulgarian startup. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you could give us a review and star rating. Also, don't forget to sign up for the ICO newsletter at innovatorscanlaugh.com, where you can get the bio and details of each guest. Thanks.